Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, with the spate of gender-based violence still high in Nigeria, more ways are being sought to bring the menace to an end. On this edition of the program, we will be looking at how technology can be deployed to ensure reportage by victims who fear stigmatization as a result of coming forward. Also, we will be looking at the growth of investment in tech platforms and what it holds for the future of Nigeria's tech ecosystem. But as always, before we get deep into all of that conversation, let's first take a look at the trending topics in the past week.
Nigerians took to their accounts to mourn the death of 3 students from Greenfield University abducted from their school premises by bandits. They were among those that were abducted by the kidnappers from the private university located along the Kaduna-Abuja highway on Tuesday night. Parents of the other kidnapped students are now appealing to the federal and Kaduna state government to assist them in rescuing their children.
The demand is unbearable. The amount is unthinkable. 800 million.
What is the situation of the remaining ones? What is going to happen to them in the next minute? The time frame, they have given the time frame that they can eliminate them.
Unknown gunmen attacked the country home of Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma, where the gunmen reportedly killed 2 security personnel on duty, burning vehicles and other properties within the building. While reacting to the development, a cross-section of Nigerians condemned the attack, even as others blamed the governor for allowing the attack to happen. Nigerians are still reacting to the presidency's decision to stand behind embattled Minister of Communications and Digital Economy Issa Pantami, even as he's facing calls for resignation after extreme Islamist views he held in the past recently came to light. The reactions of Nigerians was further fueled by Mr. Shehu's suggestion that former Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun's crime was greater than Mr. Issa Pantami's. Many argued that there was no basis for comparing both scenarios, while others agreed with Mr. Shehu as the call for Mr. Issa Pantami's resignation continues.
Well, there you go. Those were some of the trends in the past week. But you can be a part of the conversation of the program as well. If you're watching from wherever you are in the world, just tweet at us at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, at Victor_MBIDI. And you can also use the hashtag Channels Beam. Now, joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us Tomi Balogun. She is a certified financial educator and a leader within the financial education space in Africa with over a decade's worth of experience across management consulting, telecommunications, and value-added technology. She contributes her technical expertise and extensive experience to creating fintech products and helping SMEs raise funding in Africa. Tomi joins us via Zoom from Lagos. Tomi, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Indeed. So as I was reading your bio, I think the last thing that I read in your bio was helping SMEs raise funding in Africa. This is, it's quite a challenge, I mean, so to speak. One of the reasons why they say SMEs are finding it difficult to thrive right now in Nigeria is the issue of funding. I mean, funds to buy, be it inventory, to employ staff, to get to, the nitty-gritty of the business they're running. But how has that space been? What has been your experience in helping or in, making those T's, crossed and I's dotted in that space?
All right, absolutely. You're absolutely right. It is quite a challenge for a lot of SMEs to raise funding. And for us, what we saw was a gap that needed to be filled. And we decided to fill that gap in an innovative way, which is to get more young people to invest in this company. So what you see is a lot of times it's the institutions that they go to, the banks and financial institutions. But what we have found that is that a lot of young people with funding or funds who can invest in terms of aggregating these funds and investing them as investment clubs or investment syndicates in these startups. So that has been our experience, and that's what we've done with all of the startups we've worked with. And we've worked with startups in multiple sectors, in the agriculture sector, consumer lending sector, transport and logistics sector, and real estate development as well. And what we've seen is more than ever before, there's a need, right, for funding, but the access in terms of the typical traditional access and means take a long time. And sometimes they stifle business growth, they stifle business innovation. So we step in and say that, how can we help here? And that's what we do as an investment hub.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I mean, you know, that gap is there, I mean, because there are people who have the money but are pretty much unsure of what to do or where to put that money. So, you know, the question now is, even if you decide, I mean, like you said, a lot of tech startups in various sectors, agriculture and all of that. I'll get to one of those startups that you talked about. Well, you haven't talked about it, but I actually saw it somewhere. So now, what's the guarantee? I mean, what's the safety net that is provided for people who, you know, eventually listen to your advice and decide to put their money in a particular startup or SME?
All right. The truth is, there is no investment without risk, right? Every investment has some sort of risk profile. So what we do is we carry out due diligence on all of these startups and investment profiles. So we do site visits, we speak to management, basically do some street work as well, because, you know, in Nigeria, you can't just depend on whatever is sent to you via email. So we do site visits, we speak to management, try to get a sense of the business model, because when you understand the business model of an organization, you have an idea of how they make money. And it's always very important to know how the money flows, how the money is flowing in and how it's flowing out in terms of their business model. Because once you understand that, you know, if they have the ability to meet their debt obligations to you as an investor. There are some businesses that tell you they have a need, but by the time you look at their processes, you realize that they would not be able to meet their debt obligations to you as an investor. So for us, that's what we do. But even after all of that, what we do is compile a report and say, this is the risk profile we assign to this particular organization. Is it medium risk or high risk? Most of the time, it is never low risk, right? And then based on that, we bring it to our community of investors, and then we expect them to make an informed decision. So like we said, we educate them on how to build an investment portfolio. Building an investment portfolio requires that you have funds in low risk assets and also some growth assets. And growth assets usually come with some sort of risk profile, because if you want higher returns, they come with higher risk, right? What we educate people is to ensure that your entire portfolio does not consist of high risk sort of investment options. So we do all of that, due diligence, bring out our reports and say, based on what we see, this is the risk associated with this company. But of course, you wouldn't pass through our due diligence process if we do not think that you can meet your debt obligations to an investor, or we do not believe that you can scale up to meet the debt obligation. So once that is done, we expect the investors to make up their minds and make an informed decision and say that, okay, I am ready to invest in this company based on the report and based on the risk profile assigned to it. So that is our approach, and that's the way it works, really, because there's really no investment without risk.
Yeah, indeed, I kind of agree with you that there is no investment without risk. Again, earlier on, I saw in your bio, talking about fintech. So the fintech, I would say, the fintech sector, I would say, even benefited the most, you know, in recent months and even during the pandemic in terms of investment. I mean, we've seen tons and tons of millions of dollars of investment, you know, foreign investment, actually, again, in fintech companies in Nigeria. But the thing is, as this go, what is the future for these companies that are being invested in? I mean, are they selling equity? I mean, I'm just having a fear. I mean, you know, that, you know, their companies might get taken over by the investors if things don't go well. But I don't know. I mean, do you want to clear some? I think you should clear some air on that, on how that works, especially where you have high investments like we've seen in the past months.
All right, that's a great question. But I will respond in two ways. I'll respond to explain to you how the fintech industry works, and then I will tell you what it means for an investor to invest in a company and what their expectations are and what could happen. So starting with the fintech industry, what we've seen is huge attraction or attention, that's the word, attention on the payment processing companies, because I always tell people that fintech is pretty broad. you have payments processing, you have peer-to-peer lending, you have artificial intelligence comes in as well. There's so many aspects of fintech. There's wealth management as well. So what we've seen is a huge focus on the payment processing companies, and with good reason, right? Because payment processing is such a major enabler for small businesses in Nigeria, because a lot of people can conduct their businesses online, run tech startups, e-commerce, because of the payment processing companies. You can also get access to a global audience. People can pay for your products and services from all over the world because you have access to a payment processor that enables that. So definitely that innovation was needed, and it's going to enable a lot more growth. But payment processing is just one aspect of fintech, and we expect the other aspects of fintech to also continue to grow based on the fact that the payment processor is a major enabler to the other parts of fintech, because you need payment processing for wealth management, you need payment processing for lending in every sort of way. So it's pretty huge. And we really see that there's a lot of interest in Africa, because one major area that Africa has lagged behind is in enabling open access to the rest of the world for e-commerce, for trade, right? So we expect them to continue to build and grow. A lot more in the future. I feel like if you speak about the two big names that have been received investments, one is a unicorn in the past few months. It's because of the good prospect that we see, especially because, like in Nigeria, 80% of businesses in Nigeria are SMEs, and there's a huge opportunity for them to go online and run tech-enabled businesses. So huge opportunity there. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what's possible, right? So when we speak about investing in a company, a lot of times investors prefer equity, right? So you can either invest through equity or debt, right? With debt, you usually put a pressure on the company, because if I run a business and I have this debt, hanging over my business, I always have to pay back. It's a lot of pressure. So equity is usually a cheaper means of funding for a lot of companies. Now, as an equity investor, what do I become? A shareholder, right? I'm a part of this business. I really want to know how the business is performing. I'm interested and also a part of this business potential. I have decided to participate in this business because I believe there's potential for growth. And as that business continues to grow, my investment returns will also increase. So I'm also taking a risk here, because that business might not do so well. So as investors, we believe that when we decide to become equity investors in a business, we're also taking the risk. So in terms of them taking over that business, there's some, if you look around the world, there have been instances where the investors have had to take over the business when they believe that the CEO is not running the business for investor interest. Remember, as a shareholder, you're a core stakeholder in that business, right? So when they believe that the management of that business is not running that business in a way that helps business to continue to grow, then that happens. Apple experienced that with Steve Jobs. We've had that with multiple big-time companies, right? So I believe that might happen. It's not something we hope to happen. Right? Okay.
All right. So just as we wind down, Tomi, in all of your work, how many bridges have you built? How many people have you brought together, and how much have you raised? As we wind down.
Oh, right now we have 1,700 members in our investment club, the Green Investment Club, resident in 26 countries. So mostly Nigerians and Nigerians in diaspora. We have members in China, Switzerland, Ireland. And what excites us is we have Nigerians all over the world looking to invest in Nigeria as well. And in 3 years, we've done $17 million in investments in transactions.
So is there a prize for significant numbers, say like maybe the 1,000 member, the 1,700, or maybe the 1,700 and maybe first customer? I'm thinking if there is an incentive, maybe I would be the 1,701th person that would join the club. It's pay week. I just might decide to put my money somewhere if the advice is right. But either
there are membership plans basically that we offer to members. We expect them to choose the plan that works for them. But definitely we try to make it across the board for different people and different needs and interests. Yeah, so that's what we do. But we are very big on research and due diligence in terms of putting out credible information. And we work with investment partners to ensure that we continue to put out the best information out there.
All right, then, Tomi, I'd have to say thank you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts on this.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a good time.
You're welcome. Sure. That's the plan. We'll take a break and we'll be back in a moment with a different perspective. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now we move to our Abuja studio where we are being joined by Omomi Ogunrotimi. She is the founder and executive director at Gender Mobile Initiative, which aims to increase the reportage of and reduce the incidence of gender-based violence through coordination of linked services. Omomi, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. So, I mean, it's been a roller coaster over the years, and of course, we also had that during the pandemic there were more cases of gender-based violence. But give us a picture of what the figures or what the statistics are saying at the moment.
Yeah, so let me start by saying that, you know, in recent time, of course, like you rightly said, there is a significant uptick in the incidence of sexual and gender-based violence across the country and also globally. But when you look at statistics, you know, there is research indicates that 3 out of every 5 women, you know, would experience sexual violence in their lifetime. Research also indicates that 6 out of every 10 children experience sexual, physical, or emotional violence before the age of 18. And out of this, only 2 out of every 40 cases are reported, which means that there is also a corresponding level of underreportage.
All right. So in all of this now, we're trying to see how we can bring in technology to help. How is that working, or what's the? I'm looking for the right phrase now. How can we deploy technology, you know, to ensure? Because one of the reasons why you know, we don't get convictions where you even report is because some people are scared. 1, of stigma, 2, of you know, society and all of that. How can we bring technology to bridge this gap?
Okay, so let me start by saying that, you know, the low conviction rate we've recorded over the years is a byproduct of a number of factors, which has to do with social, legal, economic, and cultural factors. But when you look at the social factor, you realize that, of course, the low reportage can be attributed to social stigma. It can be attributed to the repressive culture of silence, also occasioned by the fact that people lack information on how to report, whom to report to, and how to access reports in a simple and dignified manner. And like I did mention, the repressive culture of silence has lingered on for so long that we've normalized it, that when people are sexually abused, they are victimized the second time. They're first a victim by virtue of the abuse, and then they are victimized the second time. But with technology has been used to solve a lot of social problems, but also to say that, you know, technology adoption has been largely unsuccessful because a lot of times the kind of technology we deploy are not that which can actually meet our local reality. So, but in general, you know, we can leverage technology to address the rate of unreported by providing platforms that people can report anonymously and with the highest level of confidentiality. So this means that we can use technology to actually create platforms that are survivor-centered. When I say survivor-centered, I mean that platforms that prioritize the rights and the unique needs of survivors. And also with technology, we can be able to collect data. We all understand that data is the new oil, is the new currency. With data, we can do a lot of things. And I would like to make reference to environment of learning, for example, where, you know, a lot of times students are victims of sexual harassment, but because of the power play, because of the possibility of experiencing or suffering some form of backlash or reprisal, students keep quiet, and then either they give in to the sexual demand or they just resort to their fate. So, but when we have grievance redressal mechanisms that clearly states how students can report and access a range of service. Now, this is also one of the ways we can leverage technology. You'd realize that because a service is available does not mean that it is accessible. So, but when people, by virtue of technology platform, are able to access a one-stop center where you report a case and right there and then you're able to access first aid counseling or trauma counseling. Right there and then, you know, you're connected to a lawyer who can provide you with legal advisory. And right there, you can take an informed decision whether or not you want to prosecute the case. Also, when people are raped at times, they also do not understand what next steps to take. That as a victim of rape, you know, you report at the police station. Also, to preserve evidence, if you want to prosecute the case, it's important that you don't take a shower. So, but when there is a technology platform where people can speak to people who are knowledgeable about these issues, they can get first-hand information and take the right steps. That way, you can be rest assured that we are also on the pathway to ensure that justice is secured. And also in terms of, you know, collection of data, like I did say, I think data can help us be able to assess attrition of cases. So in Nigeria, for example, there are several stages, you know, to addressing issues of sexual and gender-based violence, from the point of reportage to the point of, you know, going to the police station, to investigating, to prosecuting, and then to securing conviction.
So
it's a whole long chain. And when you look at this chain, you realize that when you leverage technology to address some of these concerns, we are able to understand at what point that cases like this suffer attrition. That way, it informs better programming and policing response. So, in general, technology can help us achieve a lot of things, from collecting data to also ensuring that people report cases. There's a growing body of evidence to suggest that when people have confidence in the system, you know, people would report more. And when people report more, it's going to deter perpetrators. Also, when people report more, we are able to stop repeat offenders. There is a US report that corroborates the fact that an estimated 59% of perpetrators are repeat offenders. So imagine when people report cases and they report through accurate channels, and of course, institutions are more responsive to these cases. It means that perpetrators will be held accountable. And technology plays a really crucial role in achieving this.
If I may come in, you've said quite a lot. You've talked about stages, you've talked about data that, you know, can be gathered, like you said, is the new oil and all of that. So is there a central place, maybe a technology-based platform centrally that people can go there to access all of this information, all of this data, all of these steps that you made mention of, so that they just don't hear it right here, but, you know, it's something that they can revisit anytime, to read, or maybe to watch as well, so that they keep themselves, you know, on high alert. And when these things happen, I pray they don't, but when they do, they go right there to see the steps to follow, just in case, you know, I mean, moving forward.
Right, thank you for that fantastic question. So in Nigeria, NAPTIP is the, you know, federal agency that is statutorily responsible to providing this kind of support. And on NAPTIP website, you'd see, you know, helplines that you can call. In environment of learning, organizations are also working to ensure they create platforms. Tomorrow, for example, an application is going to be launched, a campus power application, where students across tertiary education institutions in Nigeria can report cases of sexual harassment and sexual assault with the highest degree of confidentiality. And this platform can also help institutions to collect data and also, you know, effectively manage cases. With this platform, students can access onboarding information. So this also reduces the vulnerability of new students, you know, to patterns of sexual abuse, just because they are not able to navigate the campus community, or because they don't have access to central platforms where they can access onboarding information. Most importantly, also, a lot of times when victims know that they are not alone, that they have someone who is also a victim, they get more confident, they muster more courage to speak out. So this platform also has a matching folder where, you know, common victims of the same perpetrator can be matched together, and their, you know, reports can be submitted. All right,
Mamomi Ogunrotimi, I'd have to say thank you for joining us on the program, and also wish you all the best as you carry this advocacy forward. But again, thanks for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now let's take a look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
The claim by IPOB that the Nigerian army can never breach the defenses of the Eastern Security Network kicks off this week's most viewed videos in 5th place.
They lied to the public that they approach, they enter our camp. Nigerian army can never in their life enter ESN camp.
It is followed in fourth by the joint security operation to bust the IPOB headquarters, which resulted into the death of the organization's number 2 man and 6 others. Third spot sees a U.S. Army veteran predicting what Nigeria's security problem holds for the future.
So this is not something that I'm not the prophet of doom telling Nigeria that this is what's going to happen. I'm saying that if this thing is not properly taken care of, Nigeria could be actually possibly ended up like Afghanistan.
In second spot is the video of the attack on Imo State Governor Hope Uzodima's country home.
Live. You can see I've gone to the government house.
While in first place is the debate between freelance journalist David Hundeyin and Dr. Kabir Kabo on the Islamic extremism stance of Dr. Issa Pantami.
In which universe it is explainable that this woefully misunderstood man, this victim of Southern bigotry, as they always try to portray it, somehow has created a situation where the Federal Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy has licensed an Islamic TV station exclusively to live stream content from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I would really love him to give me an explanation that proves to me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that all of us, somehow what we're seeing is not really what is there.
Yes, every year, actually in our center, International Center for Islamic Culture and Education, he is not preaching for anything other than sense of unity.
And that's the show this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Mathias.